Hello there guys, Elita-Legionarii here, and just before I start, I hope you guys had a fantastic Christmas, a great time over Christmas with your family, friends and loved ones. Hope it was awesome. Today I've got a really fun 2v2 for Napoleon Total War. This is a battle that myself and the SwedishLandSknekt did probably about a week ago or something like that. And we haven't played Napoleon Total War in a very long time. A number of months. And there's just one thing about Napoleon Total War that never fails to happen when both me and Swedes play it, is we're so far away from it for such a long time, but every time we come back, it's like the game just instantly grips us, and we both really want to start playing it again because it always gives you this really awesome comeback battle every single time. And we'll play it for a few weeks, and then we'll just go on to something else and probably won't play Napoleon for a while, but then we'll come back, have a game, and Napoleon instantly just throws this awesome battle right in our faces and grips our attention immediately. And this was one of those kind of battles in typical Napoleon fashion, so I cannot say like how awesome this game is, because it really is an awesome game. It's different from the other Total Wars, but it's also much better than Empire Total War, at least for like these kind of multiplayer battles. And it's real nice when you get those kind of games where you're just playing them, and then all of a sudden it's like it comes right back at you how awesome this game is after you've been away from it for a while. Anyway, I don't want to give too much away. This is a fairly intense sort of battle as far as Napoleon Total War goes. It's very fast-paced and aggressive, which was very nice for us on a comeback vid. So I'm playing as Spain. Spain's not a super power faction, but it's got a lot of unique units that can deploy outside the deployment zone, although I've only used one for that. I probably should have used more, and I'll explain why in a minute. But my army consists of, I've got two Consejeros Espandaris. I don't know, I'm my shitty Spanish, but they're basically a heavy Cuirassier cav, very good one, look really great too. And then my other cavalry consists of 4 units of Lanceros. Again, I believe Spain has very cheap, very effective Lancers. Lancers are great cavalry, get good charges in, and they do a lot of damage. They're a really good unit. I'm supporting those on the flank here with 2 Walloon Guards, the elite guard units for Spain, very good unit. Spain doesn't have a lot of diversity in its units, but these are very reliable units indeed. For artillery, I've bought a 6-pounder horse artillery. I usually prefer howitzers because howitzers are much more useful against infantry, but these units are the horse artillery is great against cavalry, and the 6-pounder is obviously, being a horse artillery, not a foot one, you can move it up quickly. My line consists of, I believe it was 5 units of Fusilier, and then just 4 units of regular light infantry, and I've got one special deployment unit, the Terradores di Cantabria. Bit risky putting it here like this though, because it's not very well defended. So you can get like a couple of cavalry units that can deploy outside the zone and more skirmishes in the line infantry, but I didn't do that this game. I have a standard general staff. Swedes is playing as Britain. He has got, let's see, a Major General Picton, which is a good choice because he's not too expensive, but he's better than the standard, so it's a good choice. He's got, let's see, there's a Foot Guard, 2 Highland Foot, and a Coldstream Guard. Some very, very strong British infantry here indeed. As you know, the British have superb shooting stats, and their melee is pretty strong too. Some of the best infantry in the game, to be sure. Then he's got, let's see, King's German, let's see, 2 Light Foot, and 3 light foot and 2 King's German Light Legion, and then he's got just regular foot. I believe he's got 4 of it, and then he's got 4 units of the Dragoons. I'm not really sure what Swede's formation is about. I think he just wants to get up onto this higher ground, so that's why he's so compact, because a formation like this is not good for standard shooting, but I believe he's just done this so that he can get up onto this, probably this high sort of area here was his original thinking, I would think, and that's why he's just tight like that, so he can get up there quickly and then he'll organise his lines, which is a good idea because I haven't done that and I have even more trouble on my end getting myself organised. So we have 2 Prussian opponents. This Prussian player brought a ton of cavalry, if I remember correctly. He's got a Cuirassier, Lancers and Dragoons, so a bit of a mixture there. If you notice, the Prussian Cuirassier don't actually have the Cuirassier. well, I suppose it's not really all the breastplate. In theory, you didn't actually have to have the breastplate for it to be a Cuirassier. It wasn't actually something that defined it, but it was generally something that he had, but it wasn't actually specific to the actual type of military unit called a cuirassier. But in this case, the Prussians do not have the breastplate, which means their cuirassier are not as good as other nations. But their lances are very cheap and very good, and the dragoons are always just a solid, reliable unit for most factions. And then he's got the same thing going on here. Then he's got a general staff, and then he's got a bunch of just regular musketeers, I believe, and he's got a 12-pounder foot artillery. And this player here has got a lot of musketeers and a grenadier mixture in his front line. He's got Gerhard von Scharnhorst, very famous and competent general from the Napoleonic period, and of course the German, I believe it was pocket battleship, was one of the German pocket battleships. I think it was one of the, was one of the heavy cruisers in World War II. I forget. It was either a heavy cruiser or, no, it was a battle cruiser or a pocket battleship or a heavy cruiser. I forget. Was named Scharnhorst. The other one was after General Gneisenau as well, so there's a little bit of history for you. Then you have a couple of dragoons and lances and cuirassiers out here. So that is their army. So a lot of cavalry, lacking skirmishers. Very unusual considering how very, very effective the Prussian skirmisher units are. Here's some here actually from this player. Schlesien-Schützen and Jaegers. Prussian skirmishers are extremely good. The Lightfoot is extremely good. All very, very versatile and useful units. Definitely Prussia's major strength. So to see a lack of it in these Prussian armies is unusual, but not unwelcome. So we're immediately going to rush up and get these high ground. So this is the Italian Grassland Map, and it's defined by relatively flat sort of terrain, but it's got these sort of mounds and hill areas across it, and then there's houses dotted in for defensive locations, and there's sort of trees and barriers and breakups in the terrain, so it's quite useful from that regard. So my opponent immediately senses blood and goes for my hold on, let me just pause it until I get the sound back. Sometimes it cuts. There we go. Got the old sound mod still on that I used to use. It's fantastic. My opponent immediately senses blood, and he's going to go in for my light unit I've got up here. But this works into my favour because he just sort of clusters up, and I send in my heavy cavalry here. And let me just pause again. I don't know why. Sometimes this happens for me in Napoleon, where the sound kind of just cuts out a little bit. There's some strange things. Here we go. So it's alright now. So yeah, my cuirassier is going to get involved here. He's probably going to kill that skirmisher unit, but he's going to lose his cavalry as a result. And my guys are shooting here, but this terrain is sort of not too even. But I managed to get my horse artillery up, and I'm going to move this unit out of the way because I don't want to shoot my horse artillery. And I'm going to go into canister shot. I believe it's canister shot. Well, it's like the shotgun shot. I forget what it's called. It's like canister, or is it I forget what it's called. I think it's canister. But yeah, I'm going to start opening up into his cavalry on the flank here. A shrapnel shot, it might be called. I think it's what it's called. And then I'm going to push around with my Lanceros on this flank. I see a few. In a minute, I'm going to see some of these Schlesien-Schützen and Jaegers are kind of exposed. So I'm going to get a nice charge in here. But my opponent's getting pretty beaten up here. My heavy cad's pinning them on the front, and my guns are shooting them in the flank here. And Swedes makes a real nice charge here. He catches this guy as he's trying to get up onto this mound here. This is really good work by Swedes, because what he's done is he's caught this guy out before he can position himself, and even though it's just one cavalry, he kills so many men with it. It's a shame that Swedes did not manage to hit him with about 3 or 4 cavalry units, because that would have caused a huge rout. But he does a really nice job over here. Look at this, he's completely outflanked his opponent here. He's not reacting well at all. He's got 3 cavalry here, and Swedes just gets some mean cavalry charges in this fight. He's going to roll up here. I think what Swedes needs to do though is he really needs to push up over here and just start pressuring that section real quick, because he's got a real good advantage going there. And he's also flanking in over here. Now, because of the way this terrain works, I don't want to have this type of thing happening to me where I'm clustering. So a lot of my guys are not in very good positions, and they're just shooting the walls here. So a bit of a mistake on my part. Here's some enemy cav which I'm shooting at here. I use my cav to run some strikes against some of these light units down here, rough them up a little bit, but we'll get into a pretty intense fight right off the start of the battle. As you can see, Swedes is outflanking here, so I need to start pushing up here, because this guy's need to take advantage of the fact that he's a big clumped up mess. Because Swedes is on the lower ground here and slightly outnumbered, but he's in a better position, so he's doing a lot of damage there. His cavalry is just completely, really like unsettling this guy, and I really think Swedes just needs to take these four down here and this unit here and just bring them forward and start blowing the crap out of these guys while they're out of position, and then I'll push on over here, and this should be a real quick win. I should push up here quicker. I'm bringing a couple of light units over to screen with my Walloon Guards so I can push this flank hard. Same with my cavalry units, but I need to start pushing these guys up and around and bringing these guys in. So I'm going to bring in my Lancers here. I don't know what they were doing here, but they didn't charge for some reason. But I'm just going to go for a full-on bayonet charge here. I do get charged by these cuirassiers, which is not good for my Fusilier, but for some reason my Lancers were not charging, and I did tell them to run, so I don't know what that was about, but they don't get much of a charge off here, unfortunately, but which kind of sucks because that would have been real nice. But even so, with Swedes shooting here and me getting numbers down over here, these guys are starting to rout, and I'm starting to push up over here. I'm bringing up my Lancers up on this flank. As you can see, get some shots off, and as you can see, the canister or shrapnel shot is really laying into these guys over here, although loose formation skirmish units tend to do alright against that type of unit. But he's got an exposed light infantry unit that will definitely get absolutely nailed by these Lancer Cav. He's bringing in more Cav. It's just very reckless strategy from our opponent here, but it's very intense and in-your-face kind of battle. So a lot of his guys are starting to rout, and as you can see, my cavalry's fighting against his cavalry here, and I'm just going to try and get my guys organised, try to extract my cavalry so I can then shoot these guys. As you can see though, I still think Swedes, as you can see, he lost his cavalry here. Don't think he supported his attack quite well enough with his infantry. Nonetheless, he's done an exceptional amount of damage out this flank, but I think he should have been pushing a little bit harder on this player because we're already winning in here and he was getting a good position over there. But we'll forgive him that because he's been away from Napoleon ages, much like myself. Again, I mean, I'm pretty slow too, to be honest. I should be bringing it in way quicker as well. So we're definitely a bit slow, but we haven't played the game for months, so I think we've got a bit of an excuse that's acceptable. Here, as you can see, I'm putting down shots on these guys over here. He goes to charge in on me here, and I'm not going to get squares in time. I probably was focusing elsewhere, but I don't think it should be too much of a worry because his units are getting shot up pretty bad, and I've got this unit behind in squares, and they'll shoot through these ranks anyway. As you can see, he's horribly out of position. He really should not have charged up here this way because even though it's a good position to get onto, if you can get onto it, it's really narrow, the entryway on both ends, so it's really hard to get up there without being clumped. And me and Swedes caught him out really well there when he was still trying to form. So the Prussian Cav comes in here and it's going to get Swede skirmishes, but he gets his line infantry behind into squares and they should end up shooting them up, and that will turn that round. On this side, as you can see, Swedes is pushing up here. I've brought I'm going to start bringing a couple of my skirmishes up as well. Not a lot of room here. The whole battle's taking place in a very small area, and the four armies are running out of room, so there's a lot of clumping and clustering going on, which isn't really ideal. But this battle is just very fast, very aggressive, and not really building up in a sort of Napoleon style as is typical of this game. Just very intense, trying to dominate and possess key locations on this very popular location on the battlefield. But there's not enough room for everybody, so you get a lot of melees and clumpings and clustering sort of things going on, with wide cavalry actions happening on the flank and outflanking manoeuvres. And the Prussian armies have spent way too much in the centre. Very reckless attacks and assaults. As you can see, Swedes is very coordinated and organised now, and he's just dominating here. So he's going to push forward and push up. I've got some guys here as well. Probably actually hitting the odd one of Swedes' guys here, so bit risky there. You've got to love that absolutely outstanding gun sound mod. It's wonderful. It's a beautiful mod. Just makes the game more immersive and awesome. So I'm going to start pushing up here. Much too slow on my part. But nonetheless, it's still working out alright. Bit of a battle going on down here. Rather intense action there. Using the debug camera allows you to see inside the building. Really nice piece of camera setup there. So I'm going to push up here and get rid of these remaining guys out here in the forested areas, but it's mostly just picking up units now because you can see we've managed to acquire this high ground and units are routing, so we're just going to push up here. My general's been sitting in the back the entire time. This is a pretty typical mistake I make in Napoleon. Like, you go from medieval to Total War where your general's like a major player because the cavalry is very strong, the general's cavalry is really good, but in Napoleon, you have a tendency just to leave it behind, well, not behind, but leave it there in the back just to support you guys, but not get too involved. I have a tendency to forget about it, so he's been sitting in the back the whole time, not really doing anything. But he's probably had a good overview of the whole battle from back there. So I'll pretend he was just sort of one of those sort of sit in the back and command his troops from a distance sort of generals, and not led by an incompetent Kiwi like myself. So Swede's just pushing upstairs here. It's kind of loud, hopefully you guys can hear me there, but he's easily winning that house battle, and I need to push up here and be a bit more aggressive. My Walloon guards are just taking unnecessary losses. I get cav charged here by, I believe, probably the general, so I put my Walloon guard into the squares, and we'll drive that off. He does manage to get rid of some of my light infantry there, but it doesn't matter at this stage. As you can see, we're just pushing up en masse now, and we're just going to finish off these remaining units here. And it's just so wonderful to be back to Napoleon Total War. Me and Swedes will be playing plenty of this, and more Medieval 2 of course in future as well. And I've actually got quite a lot of replays left over from when I last played that I never got round to recording. And in style, we're going to do a Bayonet Charge to finish it up. Why not? And then boom, in we go. I just love Napoleon. Like, the engine, the Warscape engine just works in Napoleon and Empire. It's just not quite very good in Rome 2, Shogun 2 and Attila. It's not as smooth for the melee style combats, but it works great for Napoleon. It's just really good for this. And you can see it in the way it plays. If you haven't got Napoleon Total War and you want to try something different but want to still use Total War, I highly recommend it. It's just different from Rome Total War or Medieval 2 or even Rome 2 and those, but it's just a really great game. I highly recommend it. So here you go, a very intense game fought over a very sort of small location of land, but it was a great comeback for both me and Swedes. We were both hooked pretty much instantly, because this battle was sort of so in your face when you were playing it, you know. Normally with Napoleon you sort of get into position, you build up, you have a bit of a skirmish phase and you do a bit of flanking here and there, but it usually takes a bit of period of time. This battle was just right in our faces, right onto that hill. A whole lot of action, cavalry work, and it was just straight there at the start. A very good way to grip you back into the game. As you can see, Swedes comes away with top kills, 1,000 here. I've got 755. Our opponent's about 530 and 450, so not a lot there. We've got my best units here. Let's see, one of my Walloon guards, 89. Fusiliers here. The cavalry, the heavy cavalry, the Cuirassiers, the Conceres Espanoles, pretty good. As you see, Lancers and the other cavalry unit, good as well. Got quite a lot of kills, but a lot of my units probably just weren't that effective because they were not in a great position for quite a lot of the battle. I didn't have enough room, and I just didn't want to swamp up there and get myself into a bad situation like that Prussian player did. I didn't need to anyway, because Swedes had him outflanked. So, a really nice game there. I would imagine Swedes has got some pretty high kills on his cavalry. He got those guys killing a lot of units at the start. I think if he'd pushed up a little bit more on that flank there with his cavalry, he could have really wrapped up that Prussian player quick. But then again, same could be said for me pushing with the Walloon guards on the right there, and I could have, and with my two lancers on the right. We probably could have been a bit quicker there, but hey, we've been away from it for a while, so I think it's excusable if we play a bit crap. But we'll be getting better at it and playing a bit more. So, of course, I'll link Swede's channel, an outstanding channel. I don't need to say it, so I'll just link it and you guys should check it out if you haven't. I'm sure most of you already have, but if you haven't, highly recommend it. But it'll be in the description. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. I'd love to see your comments. Tell me what you think about it. And again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon next time.